Hey guys, John here from the Reaper blog. In this video, I want to show you how I made the trailer for my Mixing in Reaper Volume 2 course. No, this is not an ad. Before you go and turn it off, it's not an ad. I want to show you these techniques so you can use them to sell your own product or advertise your album. I think there's a bunch of stuff in here that you can learn and is worth sharing. I started off by printing stems of various elements from the mix. I took the finished mix from the end of part 4 of the series and printed stems with the effects, and then I brought them into this new session to further sort of remix. So here I've got acoustic guitar strumming. On this, I used the declicker. There was like one or two little things I didn't like in it. And on the master, I'm using sausage fattener. So it has all the effects that were from the original mix already printed on there, and I didn't really have to do much to it. Let's go to the drum tracks. I set this up kind of in a different way than you might approach a mix. I think stem mixing or mastering, or however you want to call it, is a little bit different, especially when you're approaching it as a remix. So this is the drum track. It's going to Valhalla Room and Recomp, which is then going into the drum effects folder with Tantra on it. So without effects, mute this and bypass this. You can hear it. So instantly, Tantra just transforms that drum sound into something new entirely. And it applies a lot of different effects that are difficult to set up manually. And it's just one of my favorite plugins of all time. And it's amazing, and you should definitely buy it if you're into this kind of stuff, like I am. So anyways, that's drum kit 1, just a really straightforward kick and snare beat. Then it's got loads of compression to make it really, really roomy and huge. And then Tantra is on there to chop it up and add stutters and things like that. Moving on to drum kit 2, it's not going through Tantra. It's not going through the reverb. It's basically just dry, and it's the tom fills. So that's no effects added to it. Bass, again, nothing added to it. So that's a sum of the DI bass and the rat pedal bass with a chorus on it. So guitar extra has EZQ pushed up into the tinny range. Just adds a little bit of bite. Then guitar lead, again, nothing going on with this. And guitar main, no effects added. I had another instance of Tantra, but it looks like I didn't do anything with it. So I had these stems. I kind of processed them so that they sounded good, and playing all together, they do sound pretty good. Then I kind of made a new arrangement so that I would have different points where I could put in text and do various cuts to different camera angles, sort of thing. So here's just the stems by themselves. That's with everything playing all at once, which doesn't quite work right, but everything being in the same tempo kind of makes it work. So here's what I ended up with for the remix. I used the, I think I have a reverse of the tail of the guitar lead as the starting point. So I split that there, used reverse active take in item settings to end up with this sound. Nice, interesting start. And I did the same for the end. Then I've got this acoustic guitar strum, just 2 bars of it. All right, and then that goes into the glitched drums, some cymbals, the bass, the extra guitar, and then after a couple bars, the main guitar comes in, and then after 4 more bars, the lead guitar comes in. There's another swell here. Let me solo this one. Oh, this one has Tantra on it. That's why I had that one. Really nice filtered choppy delay. I love doing that kind of stuff. Here's another thing similar. I think I applied this effect to this entire guitar track and realized that I really wanted that effect to just punctuate different sections. So I would grab a section like this, right click and drag, and then hold down Command to copy it to the other track. Yeah, okay, so I will play this entire section so you hear the remix that I ended up with. So that's the remix. I think that turned out pretty well. I thought that was a good starting point for starting to cut the video. So I'm going to save and close this session. And now we're into the actual video editing part of it. Here's the song. And I had to make an edit in it because it ended up being too long. I started with a minute and I ended up cutting it down quite a bit so that the actual song or ad is 43 seconds, which is a much more usable amount of time. And one of the reasons I did that was that it's just hard to think of different visual elements to add into the ad, keep it interesting, and not go on for too long, give out too much information, or, you know, I think shorter is better with something like this. The remix ended up cutting out 20 seconds of it from the middle. So here is that transition. So just cutting out a few bars there and making sure it made sense musically still. And I'm going to turn off some of these other tracks and I'll turn them on as we get to them. So for video, I took some footage. I turn off the effects. There we go. So I took some footage from the actual video. In ScreenFlow, I manipulated it so that it has a bit of motion to it. So I'm going to solo this so you can see this footage. So it kind of slides around. Kind of simulating what a camera would do just from screen capture. Then I have the sort of add logo thing here. And these are all just different video clips. The only thing I did with this one here was I set the play rate to 0 so that it wasn't an animated thing, because that animation kind of has a tempo that goes along with it. Didn't work with the song. I didn't want each part of the title, like Mixing in Reaper Volume 2, to come in on separate beats that are different from the song. And then these ones, you can see that the play rate is changed a little bit so that they match the tempo of the song. I'm using a frame grid here instead of a bars and beats grid. I prefer to edit video on a frame grid, but when you're working with music, sometimes things don't exactly hit on the frames. But choosing where the cuts would be was just a matter of listening to the song, and actually you can kind of see that there's a crash here, and every couple bars is almost defined. And I just dropped in a marker, and that gives me something to snap my items to. So for the video effects on these parts, I've got my essential video controls preset, which is just cropping the top and bottom. So more of like a widescreen film, more like a movie trailer would be. And that's totally optional. You don't have to do that. I kind of like the really cropped look, especially when you have film grain and stuff like that added. So that's that part. And then this other track is titles. So I've got empty MIDI items with the text overlay preset. I've got this piratey looking font. It's just kind of over the top. I didn't want it to look like horror. I didn't want it to look too clean. I don't know. I just scrolled through a bunch of different fonts to end up on this one. So these are just different MIDI items with the text overlay preset in the video processor on them as an item effect. Then I just pasted in some text and kind of formatted it to work on the screen. So those are alternating between the screen capture parts. Then I had to kind of get some visual interest throughout the whole thing. So I used some film scratches, which just looks like this. I'm not even sure where I got that. I think that was just like some stock footage that I copied. And that is an item that is looped. So it just loops throughout the whole video. And then I've got some like light leak sort of effect. I'm going to turn this off. And this is sped up a little bit. Rate of 1.055. So it looks like this when it's playing. Just some sort of like interesting color and texture that is overlaid on top of the other video. So with everything, it doesn't really play that smoothly, but it exported fine. And what was the other thing here? And then I think I did an overall. I think I also needed to crop on that track as well. Something I just ran into. Some of the videos would crop. This one would crop, but the other one wouldn't. Yeah. As you can see here, that's obviously not right. One of the quirks of working with video in Reaper. So anyway, back to the beginning. Here's what I ended up with, and I'll go full screen. it freezes on playback, but that's okay. It's something I'm used to because I don't have a super powerful computer for video editing, and Reaper's not really made optimized for video. So I would just play in smaller sections. So I cut off the end of the plasma C thing when it got to here. But I kept the film scratches on. So that's how I made the trailer for Mixing in Reaper Volume 2. Hope you can use these techniques to make something of your own and sell a product if that is the case. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and visit reaperblog.net for more tutorials.